All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Today is a very exciting day for me. We have some very special guests with us today, and we're going to be talking about human rights and the role that the Canadian government plays in protecting human rights around the world. My name is Heather Mcpherson. I am the Member of Parliament for Edmonton Strathcona. I am also the Foreign Affairs and International Development Critic for the New Democratic Party. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the legislation that I have brought forward, and then I'm going to pass the microphone off to my colleague who's joining me today to talk about some of his legislation that he's brought forward for human rights, Peter Julian, the Member of Parliament for New Westminster Burnaby and the House Leader for the New Democratic Party as well. I'm also delighted to be joined today by members of a group of an organization from Colombia, the Gaia Amazona, and their Indigenous partners. So today you will be hearing from Chela Roman Mirana, an Indigenous leader from Colombia. You will also be hearing from Gerardo Macuna Mirana, and as well from the organization spokesperson, Francisco von Hilbrand. So again, thank you so much for being here. It is vital that we take this opportunity to talk about the role that Canadian companies play in the world and the unbelievable behavior that we have seen for decades being done by Canadian companies and the stain that this has put on the reputation of Canada. I brought forward some legislation called Bill 263 that is looking at the core ombudsperson. So in 2015, we know that the Liberal government promised to put in a ombudsperson that would have the ability to hold Canadian companies to account when they are working outside of Canada. We were promised an ombudsperson that would have the ability to compel testimony and witness. We were promised an ombudsperson that would be able to do that job. However, since 2015, nothing has been done. The ombudsperson position does not have the powers to compel testimony and witness. It does not have the powers to do any job. It has done zero investigations. It has been able to undertake nothing to protect Indigenous people, to protect human rights, and to protect the environment around the world. So I'm bringing forward legislation that will change that, and I certainly hope that the government and all members of the House of Commons will support that work. Today we will hear from those impacted communities, those who have borne the brunt of the horrific actions by Canadian mining companies, and this legislation is long overdue. Very, very important. I'm going to now pass the microphone to my colleague, Peter Julian. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Heather. Et moi aussi, j'aimerais souhaiter la bienvenue à nos invités spéciaux qui viennent de Gaia Amazona et leurs partenaires indigènes. Ils vont avoir des témoignages importants et intéressants au cours de cette conférence de presse. Je voulais aussi parler du projet de loi de Heather Mcpherson, 263, qui met en place effectivement l'institution d'un ombudsperson qui va faire en sorte qu'on a un commissaire qui a le pouvoir de demander des enquêtes, d'investiguer et regarder de façon systématique les violations des droits humains. Et comme Heather vient de dire, effectivement, même si les libéraux ont fait des promesses depuis des années, ils n'ont pas mis en place, ce qui est extrêmement important. Et ça, c'est d'avoir un poste qui a les pouvoirs pour adresser des préoccupations des droits humains. Mon projet de loi aussi, 262, met en place des obligations vis-à-vis des compagnies canadiennes qui sont impliquées dans plusieurs cas des violations, des grosses violations des droits humains. Si on parle de violences sexuelles en Papouasie-Nouvelle-Guinée, si on parle de l'esclavage en Érythrée, si on parle aussi de la torture et le meurtre des militants des droits humains et de l'environnement en Amérique centrale, on a eu l'implication des compagnies canadiennes. Et mon projet de loi cherche à faire deux choses. D'abord, d'imposer une obligation de responsabilité sociale pour les entreprises canadiennes sur toutes les chaînes d'approvisionnement. Et en même temps, si ces compagnies-là ne suivent pas ces obligations-là, ça donne aux victimes le droit de poursuivre des cours canadiens pour obtenir la justice. C'est des éléments importants, les deux projets de loi, puis on espère bien que les députés de tous les partis vont appuyer ces deux projets de loi fondamentaux qui adressent les préoccupations des droits humains. So I wanted to speak a little bit more about my bill 262. Heather's spoken about 263. They are effectively partners in terms of reinforcing effective management of human rights abroad that are linked to the operations of Canadian companies. And we've seen many examples: sexual violence in Papua New Guinea, slavery in Eritrea, the torture and murder of human rights activists and environmental activists in Central America. What 262 seeks to do is first impose obligations for Canadian companies to ensure through their entire supply chain that they are conducting socially responsible corporate operations. And that due diligence is extremely important to the bill. And secondly, see those companies are not following due diligence. They're not putting in place those effective standards and obligations around corporate social responsibility. It gives the right of victims of human rights abuses to actually sue in Canadian courts. We believe these two bills put together would substantially reinforce Canada's reputation for reinforcing human rights abroad. And we hope that members of Parliament from all parties will support both pieces of legislation. Thank you.
I'd now like to take the opportunity to invite our guests to come and share their stories and their testimony from their communities. Can I encourage you to come? And it looks like we have something that can help you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Chela, soy líder indígena de la Paporis Amazona. En este momento, pues estamos presentes acá como líderes indígenas y agradecerle a todos los miembros personal que están acá escuchando en este momento el mensaje que vamos a poner en conocer a ustedes.
Hello, I am Chela. I'm an Indigenous leader from the Colombian Amazon, and I'm really grateful to be here today with you to share our struggles with you today.
Pues es contarle un poco de que como en el 2008 la empresa canadiense entra a nuestro territorio y contarle las afectaciones y el mensaje que le voy a dejar.
So today I'm going to talk about the struggles that we've lived in Colombia since the Canadian corporate mining companies arrived to Colombia in 2018.
Bueno, primeramente acá como voz de mujer indígena que sufrió de una u otra manera las afectaciones profundas dentro del territorio. Uno, la división política de los líderes y del pueblo que habitan dentro del territorio.
As a woman, I want to share today our profound struggles that we faced. For example, a profound division of our leaders in our communities.
Al dividir de los diferentes líderes el conocimiento que conjuntamente llevamos pensando en proteger el territorio, pues más como mamá, dadora de vida, es muy triste uno contar que las afectaciones dio un impacto grande donde como madre pues uno pierde a los hijos, una semilla que uno trae al mundo, pues es algo muy violento con todo el impacto de la causa que dio esta empresa.
As a woman, we bring to the world our children, and it it has been a great struggle to see these children of ours that we've nurtured throughout the years and that we lose them because of these Canadian mining companies.
¿Por qué digo que perder unos seres queridos? Porque en el lugar que realmente para los pueblos indígenas es sagrado, tocar un punto de esto es la venganza que nos trae la madre tierra. Entonces nosotros como mamá pues perdimos a los hijos que apenas empiezan la vida, unos niños inocentes que mueren dentro del territorio, los tradicionales que por su conocimiento, que transmilenariamente vienen protegiendo eso también, pues ellos en su poder empiezan como a coger su lugar, pues realmente hubo un conflicto grande entre los pueblos, líderes, mujeres, es algo muy triste.
It's with great pain that I have witnessed our children suffer and die, and our elders that also suffer through these horrible conditions that these mining companies have brought to us.
Pues esos son los impactos más grandes. Pues el mensaje que acá estando con la voz de las mujeres que están dentro del territorio Apaporis de la Amazonía es que busquemos un futuro mejor para los hijos, protegemos la riqueza que se tiene dentro de la Amazonía, no es solo para los territorios indígenas, sino a nivel mundial, que eso nos ayuda a buscar un futuro para nuestros nietos, nuestros hijos y las juventudes que nos esperan en el proceso que estamos construyendo conjuntamente.
Today I speak for the Apaporis of the Amazon, and I want to ask you to help us in our endeavor to create a better world, not only for this generation, but the generations to come.
Pues con eso termino la intervención y muchísimas gracias a todos los que me están escuchando en este momento. Gracias.
I finish the intervention by thanking every one of you who are listening to us.
Muy buen día para todos. Primeramente, darle gracias al Parlamento canadiense que nos cursaron esta invitación, que para nosotros como pueblo indígena es de suma importancia. Dándole gracias también a la Fundación Gaia Amazonas, nuestra alianza, nuestro aliado para conllevar esta política ambiental y fortalecimiento de los procesos de gobierno indígena en la Amazonía colombiana.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank everyone who made this possible today, the Canadian Parliament, the Gaia Amazonas, everyone that has been helping us in this endeavor and that made today possible.
Mi nombre es Gerardo Macuna, vengo del pueblo Gente Díaz de la Paporis Amazonas, represento al gobierno de ese territorio, ahorita pues con mucha preocupación y también con el ánimo de invitarles en 3 puntos muy importantes.
I am Gerardo Macuna, and I'm a leader of the Apaporis Amazona, and I'm a leader of the government of that territory. I am here today to share with you our worries regarding the mining companies.
Primeramente, quiero traerle como un mensaje en conocimiento de ustedes de que nosotros los pueblos amazónicos estamos representados en 15 gobiernos reconocidos. En esos 15 gobiernos estamos protegiendo 18 millones de hectáreas selváticas, conservándolos desde nuestros conocimientos culturales, desde nuestras leyes originarias que nos entregaron los seres creadores. ¿Qué realmente estamos haciendo dentro de esos gobiernos? Estamos definiendo políticas, estamos definiendo planes de vida, estamos definiendo sectores para la conservación de nuestra Amazonía, desde nuestro rol como pueblos. Entonces, yo creo que eso es una de las ganancias que ya la Amazonía ha avanzado como el pilar fundamental en la construcción de esta política para incidir dentro de los gobiernos, no solo a nivel de Colombia, sino a nivel mundial.
I come with a message that we are part of 15 recognized governments in the Amazon that protect and preserve 18 million of hectares of the forest. We come with our knowledge, our laws, and we are trying to define politics for the sector of conservation of the Amazon, and come with fundamental knowledge about how we can do so.
Como segundo, también es importante dar a conocer a la opinión pública, al gobierno de Canadá, especialmente al Parlamento canadiense, que en su trabajo diario están buscando una definición de una política en defensa de lo ambiental, de esos principios culturales que realmente nos fortalece, y por lo tanto yo creo que ponerle ese interés, definir unas leyes ambientales de los sectores de los parlamentarios es sumamente importante para toda la Amazonía, y no solo la Amazonía, sino a nivel mundial, porque yo creo que la conservación de la madre tierra debe ser el interés no solo de los pueblos, debe ser de la sociedad civil, debe ser de los parlamentarios, debe ser de los gobiernos. Entonces, en este término, las afectaciones que causan las diferentes multinacionales no debe seguir pasando, porque realmente nosotros como gobierno tenemos que tener, digamos que ese ánimo o ese compromiso de poder frentear esas amenazas, esas discriminaciones de los derechos que causan muchas veces las multinacionales. Yo creo que si nosotros nos unimos como diferentes gobiernos, yo creo que podemos sacar un proceso interesante donde realmente entre un gobierno indígena y los gobiernos nacionales e internacionales se pueda crear una política ambiental pública donde con el propósito de todos podemos tener grandes resultados.
We want to thank the Canadian Parliament for today. It is of utmost importance that the public opinion and the Canadian Parliament defend the Mother Earth every day. This gives us a lot of strength, and it's incredibly important to define how we can protect Mother Earth. It's not only a priority for the Parliament and civil society, but it's everyone's struggle. As a government, we have to change the way we deal with corporate mining so that we can unite together all the governments of the world to create environmental policies that benefit not only our generations, but the future generations as well.
Como para terminar, quisiera como invitar como gobierno local de esos pueblos que estamos en la Amazonía, a los diferentes gobiernos del nivel nacional e internacional, de que si nosotros creamos una alianza de coordinación y una estancia de coordinación, de trabajar de manera mancomunada en buscar las diferentes debilidades donde realmente ejerce algunas de las empresas, y que nosotros con el mayor ánimo podemos contrarrestar ese reconocimiento de esas violaciones que muchas veces pasa por situaciones que nosotros descuidamos en darle seguimiento a esas empresas. Yo creo que podemos crear una alianza de cómo desde esa alianza generar una política para la conservación de la Amazonía y de todos los territorios indígenas que habitamos en el mundo. Yo creo que salvaguardar esos principios culturales de los diferentes pueblos indígenas que estamos en diferentes países nos ayuda de que definamos una política para seguir conservando la madre tierra. Muchísimas gracias.
As a local government, we want to invite the international governments to find a solution together to counteract these common violations that occur today. I think we can create an alliance to safeguard these knowledges and to define policies that will create a better future. Thank you.
And now, if I could, I will ask our final guest to join me today. From Gaia Amazonia, this is Mr. von Hildebrand.
Ladies and gentlemen, good day to everybody. My name is Francis von Hildebrand. I am the president of Gaia Amazonas, a Colombian foundation we've been working for over 35 years, hand in hand with indigenous peoples, to protect the Amazon rainforest, to get indigenous territories recognized, to get indigenous rights in place, and we've achieved that. Today, 48% of the Amazon basin is managed directly or indirectly by indigenous peoples. However, the most aggressive and the most disruptive encroachment of any sector within these territories is the mining sector, that unfortunately many times behaves in a criminal way, destroying cultures, destroying ecosystems. Little it is known that 75% of mining companies at the global level are here in Canada, are Canadian companies. And that makes Canada, by definition, the single most important actor at a world scale in the future of the Amazon regarding extractive industries and mining specific. This House, this government, this generation of Canadians have the tremendous burden and responsibility to redress this. It is within your power. It is within the power of this House and this government to put in place, to promote the necessary and effective and pertinent policies, mechanisms, safeguards that guarantee that all actions by Canadians at home and abroad, and in the Amazon rainforest in particular, respect human rights, respect environmental rights, respect diversity, respect future generations, and we do all we can within our power to avoid the worst of climate change. It is our sons and daughters and grandsons that will say if we did our best. It is within your power, and we need to act now. We urge the government from all parties to do all it takes with utmost urgency to advance and implement effectively said policies and measures to guarantee that Canadian companies and actions in the Amazon rainforest is a force of good and not a force of evil. Thank you very much.
So as you can see, we have people that have traveled across the globe to share their stories with us today. We have people who have come to tell us the horrific things that are happening in their communities by Canadian mining companies and other companies around the world. We've heard stories of rape, of murder, of environmental degradation. It is a stain on the Canadian, on our Canadian identity, and the Canadian government does have an obligation to act, to do more, to protect people who are victims of these horrific abuses at the hands of Canadian mining. Thank you. At this point, we can take some questions.
It doesn't seem that we have any questions this morning, so if there are no closing remarks, that concludes the press conference. Thank you very much for your testimonies.
Thank you very much for coming. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.